Hey people, Memory Card here once again, and it's been a wee bit of a hectic last couple of months, mainly because we had two games coming out in January, and I really wanted to beat them both. I'm still working on one of them, the second one I managed to beat, and I'm bringing you the review of it today. Resident Evil 2. Now, I absolutely love the Resident Evil series. Now, these two aren't the best games I really got on show, but I don't own any of the other games other than digital versions. I have grown up with the Resident Evil franchise. I have played everyone bar 7, the one I haven't played. I have grown up with when I shouldn't really played it when I was young, but I was young, and I was scared senseless of the graphics, and that's... I shouldn't have been scared by that. Anyway, so when they announced they were making Resident Evil 2, the remake, well, needless to say, I was very excited. I was excited to see a remake of what we knew was a great classic. Now, I have played the remake of the original Resident Evil. Oh god, it terrified me. It still does to this day, where it makes me unnerved. But I wondered how the new generation consoles would handle the new zombie apocalypse. Well, new/old, it's a zombie apocalypse either way. So, buckle up people, we're going to talk about this game at a long length.
In 1998, Capcom came out of nowhere with Resident Evil 2, a sequel to the already great Resident Evil 1 at the time. This upped the ante, bringing it from a mansion in the middle of nowhere to a city, making it a wee bit more terrifying and quite heart-wrenching to run around, due to the fact, instead of one or two zombies, there's a lot. Quite some time had passed, and we had seen multiple sequels, some good, some awful, some really bad, and ones that we punched boulders in. Other than that, we had seen a remake of Resident Evil. We wanted to see Resident Evil 2 get the same treatment. Well, we had to wait quite a long time, 17 years to be precise, I think. And finally, on January 25th, 2019, we got it, Resident Evil 2. This is an amazing game, especially for Capcom to come out of nowhere and just kind of go, yeah, we will do it. I mean, we had been crying out for years, but we never thought it'd ever happen. But honestly, when I sat down, I said one thing to myself: I want to be scared. I have been scared by Resident Evil 1 remake, I've been scared by the original Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, and then the rest of all the Resident Evil just dwelled into, oh look, a little bit of scared here, oh no, ooh. And don't even get me started on the movies. Well, when I sat down and finally started to play Resident Evil 2, I chose to be Leon. And well, this game certainly kicked me hard in the butt. Because, well, they upped it. You can't just down a zombie by one headshot and be, oh, okay. These things are going to be the bane, and this is something I'm going to talk about heavily upon. Enemy placement, enemy design, and even how it reacts. But first of all, I'm going to address a couple of other things, such as development and how this thing goes. Unlike its predecessor, this game doesn't focus on tank controls and fixed angles. It actually is free-flowing, over-the-shoulder, kind of like a Resident Evil 4. But it works so much better. They've refined this considering we've had Resident Evil 5 and 6 doing the same thing. 7 was first-person perspective, but they're still using the same engine, the RE engine from 7, putting it into 2, and it looks fantastic. It's the best engine to use for this kind of gory detail, horrifying, dark corridors, nightmare hellscape. I cannot tell you how much I loved walking around the RPD station just going, ooh, it's dark in here, and then realizing, oh no, it's dark in here. I'm kind of glad they did focus on one thing with this game. It was more horror than action. I've played the previous installments, and my god, they should have just been called Resident Evil. They should have been called Burning City of Doom Explosion Extravaganza 3. Or something like that, because they weren't Resident Evil. You look at the original trilogy, and what's that? You are alone, limited ammo, limited resources, a finite amount of health. Get yourself out of it. Resident Evil 7 went back to this scenario where it was micromanaging your items, dealing with the mold, dealing with the bakers, and getting out alive. All the DLC did exactly the same thing, and now they've imported more or less the same feeling and just upped the ante with this remake. Now, obviously they've done a massive overhaul to kind of make it modern, but still keep it back in 1998 when it's meant to be set. Sure, the character of Leon has been updated to not wearing his big shoulder pads, low polygon looking like person, or what they did with the Resident Evil 4 costume. They've actually made him look a bit more modern in his look, but also keep him sort of, baby-faced. That baby-faced. As for Claire, they've made her not look like, well, she rode in looking like a Harley Davidson supporter, but more, she's coming in to look for her brother. Like I said, the graphics of this game stand out beautifully, not only in character models, but in actual details as well. From starting up the game and finding that Trucker has had his first bite into that lovely burger, to running over the first, I would like to say zombie, but I don't think she was dead before he hit her, but I think she was an escapee, or... This game's graphics just ooze out every detail. You can feel the love for the game, that this wasn't created solely to make money and pushed out the door. This has had time, effort, and obviously if you look at the development, how long it took for it to even be considered, from August 2015 being announced as a remake to now being released this year in 2019, about 4 years. 4 years of development. This shows games that have been in development for a long time, not development hell by being pushed from publisher to publisher, but I mean development showing that it's going through a lot of evolution, a lot of processing, fine-tuning, polish. This game oozes it. The campaigns themselves, Leon and Claire's campaign, are quite similar in a lot of ways. This isn't a bad thing, it's just an upsetting thing. You both go through the same cityscape to begin with, both go through the same layout of the RPD station. You meet the same zombies, you meet the same Mr. X, which I'll get to him in a minute. But it does have its differences. Claire still meets Sherry and goes on the wonderful trip with her, and Leon meets Ada. They still have their adversaries and slight differences in the gameplay. The game can't take itself too seriously though. We already know it takes a shots or jabs at itself. Meanwhile, it hasn't actually kept it within very realistic terms of what would roughly happen. Some of these diaries are actually quite heartbreaking to read, meanwhile figuring out who's died where and what's going on where. There's even surprises which I would doubt to no end would happen. For example, there is a locker with a zombie in it which will flop out and give someone a heart attack, but it must have been a hiding space for that poor person while they died. The cutscenes themselves are beautifully animated and make you feel for each character. Now I know I can take a shot at all the goofy voice acting from the Resident Evil trilogy and say how ludicrously bizarre it was to hear voice acting back then, but that was just part of the times. That voice acting was barely a thing. A fully voice acted game was barely a thing. Whilst trying to survive the RPD station with each campaign, you are still introduced to certain elements. For example, you're introduced to liquors, which by God, they have been amped up something horrible. You can't just go willy-nilly firing into these things. Mind you, who would try? They can take a chunk of your health within a second, and they will send you out quite easily. Your only go-to is they're blind and you can sneak around them if you go slowly enough, which is detailed in an actual document. However, I didn't read said document, so yeah, this happened.
Let's edge forward, see what you do. Fuck you, fuck you. Yep, fighting you was not a good idea.
Then there's the zombies. My God, are these guys gory as hell. You have to be very careful with shooting these things. You can't just willy-nilly waste all your ammo everywhere you want, taking pot shots at them. You have to be very, very surgical about it. The reason I say surgical is because you're going to have to think about enemy placement. You might have a corridor filled with 3 zombies, 4, you might even have just 1. So you got to figure out, is it worth wasting your ammo, wasting the dagger, which is actually quite a nice addition because, well, that can save you from being bitten, or you can slice pieces off, depending how you want to deal with it. Back to the gun though, you can pretty much shoot the zombie anywhere. It will affect it by either blowing off a limb or blowing its head off. or you can waste several thousand bullets into it and then eventually get it down. However, these zombies will not be down. If their head's not completely gone, these are still technically can be a threat. They might get up, they might not. It's not like back in the good old day where you see a blood puddle and go, that's dead. I've got no more fear from you. These zombies will get up. I thought one of the NCPs who died early on in the game in my arms while being torn in half, we'll call him Officer Nameless, because honestly I didn't care what his name was at the time. I didn't realize he came back as a zombie. Yeah, he came back. That sucked, because he nibbled at my knees. I didn't like that. So I blew off its head. Every enemy is cunningly made, even some of the bosses, which are beautifully done. I mean, god damn, William Birkin scared the living crap out of me. I dodged every video dealing with the possible boss fights to even some of the gameplay way back before this game was released. Now, I knew William Birkin was going to be a boss, I knew he was going to jump out somewhere. I wasn't expecting him where he was and how I dealt with him. I think that first encounter is deliberately targeted so you'll run out of most of your ammo until he dies, but I don't know because I wasn't willing to experiment. I had to deal with him as carefully and as skilled as I could, and that involved me running away most of the time, shooting him in his weak point. But there is one enemy, there is one persistent annoyance in this game, and it ramped up my fear tenfold, and it was something I wasn't expecting until later on in the game, and he turned up too early, and he is just a goddamn nightmare. He is Mr. Flippin' X. X gon' give it to you. That's right, X gonna give it to you, because he chased me around that police station. Holy god, this guy will go anywhere, chase you down anyway, and if he sees you, he's gonna beeline it straight towards you. And here's how you deal with it: you turn and run like a big Jesse. Why? Because shooting this guy will not damage him. It will slow him down if you do enough shots to his head, but you'll be wasting your ammo. He is so perfectly programmed. He is the greatest thing to chase you down, and here's why. If you get into a scuffle with a zombie or a licker, and you decide you're going to crack off one or two of your rounds and kill off the enemy, you're going to hear those famous thump, thump, thump. Yeah, like that. As Mr. X will start chasing you, because he's figured where you are, and he's coming for you. Sure, there's some areas he's programmed where he's not able to follow you to, but that's kind of give and take, because one of the areas is a one way in, one way out. Safe rooms he won't follow you into, and the interrogation room. Other than that, this guy will literally tear through walls, come after you hard, and make sure he's going to give you nightmares. After all that, I felt the game still kept a level of tension, surprise, and mystique about it for me to keep going and wanting to see the end of this game. Overall, I love this game. Love it, love it, love it, love it. But towards the end of the game, I did start losing bits of the fear. I felt over encumbered with herbs, weapons, and ammunition in one campaign to scrambling for it in the other campaign. I think this is because once you play one campaign, you know what's coming. But if it's your first time playing, you're going to waste your bullets or your health items on trying to escape, live, fight another day. It's not a bad thing. I find that I'm still enthralled by the game, that I can still go back to it, pick it up, and be scared, want to play it even more, and figure it out, learn everything I can, and wait with bated breath for Capcom to come along and say, we're making the third one. If there's anything I can tell a player, it's don't go in expecting the same old hat and trick. Go in with an open mind. Don't watch any spoilers. Don't watch runs. Don't watch let's plays of it. Go in blind. The more you go in blind, the more it's going to surprise you. The more you're going to be impressed by yourself because you're working off your own wit to unlock the puzzles. Because some of these puzzles are pains in the butt. And sometimes you have to conquer your own fear of running down into an area or running to an area where you know there's going to be a potential zombies and a lot of them, might I add. Overall, this game gets my praise, and it was definitely worth the wait.
Overall, this game deserves its place upon my shelf. So, maybe for another day. The one thing I've always said about this game is I want to be scared. The dark hallways, everything about this game was just brilliant. The fact that this actually was far different from what I remembered of the short playtime I had on the PlayStation 1 to completing the game. Yes, there are some problems between both campaigns, consistency wise and also just gameplay wise. You can forgive that. You can forgive it because it gives us everything we wanted. We wanted the Fortifier, we wanted Tofu, we wanted everything that this game was, and just glorified and beautifully made. And even the cutscenes alone was, I was scared. I was starting to curl up with the controller. Oh dear. If any of you have ever seen the live streams I've done, you'll realize I was a big Jesse at certain points of the game. Valid. I had to push myself harsh through the ending of it though, because even starting a second campaign next to it, which was Squared, it was a hard slog because I knew what was coming on one side, but I didn't know what was going on the other. Either way, you're still going to get your money's worth out of it. It's a really great game. It's lovingly made. It definitely deserves its place in anyone's collection if they're hardcore enough and not fear what this game's got around the corner. Overall, my verdict is it's been plastered throughout this whole entire thing. Save. Thank you for watching this episode, people. It means a lot that you've stuck around this long and even going watching this a little bit at the end. January was a very busy month for me, unfortunately. I had 2 games to get through and push myself through as best I could, along with work schedule, etc. But I hope this episode has made up for it, and the 3rd episode won't be that long away, because you know it's been sitting there and it's the most recent thing for me to have played, so yeah, that's the next thing I'm going to be tackling. So please, once again, hit the subscribe button if you really want to catch up with what I'm doing, with last minute announcements. I'm doing live streams or even just catching random things I'll say or posting random crap. Please go check my Facebook, which will be the links somewhere down below or around about. If you want to watch any of the other videos like Deltarune or 3-minute reviews, please by all means go and check the playlists, which is down there somewhere as well. Thank you very much once again, and we'll catch you for the next episode. Memory card.